Oh, I think it'll be good for the United States. He's looking to cut taxes and deregulate and to get the government off people's backs. I think that is an admirable programme.
And what about for Britain?
I think for Britain it's much better than the continuation of the Democrats. I think we've got so many shared values, and a commonality between Brexit and the election of Trump is that it's the triumph of optimism, that it's for people in America who believe in the American dream and felt that the liberal elite were taking it away from them. In the UK, it was about feeling the UK could stand on its own 2 feet without having to have Brussels stand in the way. And this is a wonderfully optimistic, outward-looking approach, and I think has great opportunities for both our nations to work together, to cooperate and collaborate to the good of the world.
So that's what you think they have in common. It's a sense of optimism rather than a particular group of people being behind it.
Oh, that's right. I think it's a very optimistic approach, and one that believes in the strength of our two nations rather than the gloomy view taken by what has come to be called the liberal elite.
It has been an odd one. He hasn't met any ordinary people in Britain at all. He hasn't visited anywhere other than a dinner at Blenheim Palace and a visit to Chequers and apparently golf with his son in Scotland. I wish him well with the golf, but I wish there'd been an opportunity for him to understand something about our society. But his comments about Speak Calm are completely unacceptable, and his apparent endorsement of somebody as a rival to Theresa May, it's the greatest respect not his business who the British Prime Minister is.
When somebody on a global stage condemns Muslims because they're Muslims, it's not acceptable, and we will call it out. Fundamentally, the message that goes out today from London is, together here in London and around this country, our message to our visitor is, we are united in our hope for a world of justice, not division. We're united in our hope to end racism, misogyny. We're united in hope for all our diversity.
Trump decided to use the populist agenda. He blamed Muslims, he blamed Mexicans, he blamed women, he blamed anybody he could think of, except the very corporate America that in many ways he actually represents. Absolute anger and outrage. Donald Trump should grow up and recognise the American economy actually depends on migrant labour. Last year they had a day without Mexicans. They certainly noticed it. And I think the treatment of Mexico by the United States, just as much as his absurd and abusive language towards Muslims, is something that has to be challenged and should be challenged.
Time magazine every year makes somebody the person of the year or the person who's had the greatest influence, for better or worse. Is he a worthy recipient? Nigel Farage.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, the whole point of the prize is whether Time magazine think you're a force for good or a force for bad, and there aren't many shades of grey in terms of the way people look at Donald Trump. Either way, he's made the most dramatic impact on politics this year. Everybody thought it was literally impossible for him even to win the nomination, to get through the primaries. He did, and the day before the election, you know, the New York Times said there was a 97% probability that Hillary Clinton would win. He stunned everybody. He's taking over as president on the 20th of January. And not only do I think he's a worthy recipient of Time magazine's Person of the Year, I think he will also, by this time next year, surprise all of you by just how popular and good a president he's going to be.
Over the last few months, the Brits' attitude towards Trump has softened because they can see that America is doing well economically and that this president keeps his promises. And, you know, our problem is successive British governments get elected making promises and don't keep them, and Trump is a real contrast to that.
Nigel, it's great to see you. The issue is that anything the president says is an official statement, and sometimes his tweets really rankle a lot of people, Nigel.
Well, look, I mean, the fact is, the day that he'd sort of rewritten NAFTA completely, he held a press conference, and all they wanted to ask about was Stormy Daniels. So, I can get his frustration. With Twitter, what the president does, he goes round the back of mainstream media, he delivers a message directly to an incredible 52 million people. Now, he does it using language that is colourful, provocative, unforgettable, and if you don't like Trump, you see his tweets, you hate him. if you do like Trump, you love every moment of it.
Yeah,
but
well,
boy, he is the absolute master at this.
And he can be insulting and offensive, right? He has been insulting and offensive. But to your point, there has been a lot of Trump economic victories, a record 7.1 million job openings. That's an all-time high, Nigel. Another great sign for the economy, more job openings than eligible workers. Even the Washington Post says it's a good time to ask for a raise, all because of Trump.
Well, I mean, look, the fact is, you know, whatever mainstream media say, I think middle America knows this guy, whether you like him or not, has delivered remarkable economic results. He's brought confidence back to America. You know, he's deregulated, allowed small and medium-sized businesses to breathe. And you know something? If he crows a bit on Twitter about his successes, I think we should allow him to do so.
Britain First is a hateful organisation. It seeks to spread division and mistrust among our communities. It stands in fundamental opposition to the values that we share as a nation, values of respect, tolerance and, dare I say, just common British decency. But the fact that we work together does not mean that we're afraid to say when we think the United States have got it wrong, and to be very clear with them. And I'm very clear that retweeting from Britain First was the wrong thing to do. What we have seen in the United States, the pictures of children being held in what appear to be cages are deeply disturbing. This is wrong. This is not something that we agree with. This is not the United Kingdom's approach. Indeed, when I was Home Secretary, I ended the routine detention of families with children. We have a long and a special and long-enduring relationship, long-standing relationship with the United States, and I think it is right. There will be a range of issues that I'll be discussing with President Trump, a range of issues about our shared interests, and I think it's important that we make sure that when we see the President of the United States here in the United Kingdom, we're able to have those discussions. That means that when we disagree with what they're doing, we say so. I'm pleased that I am able to meet President Trump so early in his administration. That is a sign of the strength of the special relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States of America, a special relationship on which he and I intend to build. But can I also say to the Leader of the Opposition, I am not afraid to speak frankly to a President of the United States.
Trump to negotiate Brexit, what a fantastic idea. How would Donald Trump have approached our Brexit negotiations? There would be all sorts of breakdowns, there would be all sorts of chaos, everyone would think he'd gone mad, but actually, you might get some. So it's a very, very good call.
I don't know the gentleman you referred to at all. Well, I heard what he had to say about Muslims and not wanting to allow Muslims into America. I thought that was an extraordinary thing for a candidate for the office of President of the United States to say, basically because America, as I understand it, is a country built on the ideal of welcoming people irrespective of their race, religion, colour or creed or whatever. And I think that's a fine thing about America. So I was very, very disappointed to hear that.
So can I ask the Foreign Secretary, when he said, as he did on the 6th of June, that he is, I quote, increasingly admiring of Donald Trump, he's begun to tell us some of the reasons why, but could he help those of us who are yet to be convinced? 3 things about this current president that he increasingly admires about him.
Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to say it, but I have anticipated the Right Honourable Lady's question. I pointed out, number one, that I thought it was an admirable thing that after the chemical weapons attacks led by the Assad regime, supported by the Russians, the Donald Trump's administration actually responded. I think it's a good thing that the United States is trying to solve the problem of a nuclear-armed North Korea, and trying very hard. And I admire at least the President's efforts in that respect. And I think it's a good thing, too, that the President is encouraging our European friends and partners to spend more on their own defence, and we should certainly be assisting in that effort.